Having got through the quagmire that is Venus and the sevens, that's really depressing. I hope you survived all that. We move on to the eights, which is Hod and Mercury. We've now switched over to the other side of the tree of life. Okay, in the eights and Hod. And Crowley, according to the Naples arrangement, Crowley says that this is the point, idea, of thought. Now, the problem with thought is a kind of in love with verbosity and words. It's not really any kind of intellectual insight as such. It's just kind of verbal diarrhea and things like this. Not such a good thing. So what do we have for the eights? We'll look at, so here's the Eight of Wands, and we have Mercury ruling Sagittarius. Mercury is communication, self-expression. Sagittarius is a kind of, this is the first decanate. So we're going through this onrush of energy, of inspiration. We're going to go all over the world and change things and meet the guru and do everything like this. It's got to do it now. Really good. In contrast, with the emotional side, we have the Eight of Cups, Indolence. It looks pretty depressing. We have Saturn ruling Pisces. It follows on from the Seven of Cups, which was not, if you thought that was bad, you wait and see. Then we have, for the first decanate of Mercury, we have interference, and that's Jupiter. There's Jupiter, and his cards, the way that the swords are drawn on there is like a prison cell, interference. It's kind of blocking things. And then for the final one, we have the Sun in Virgo, the first decanate of Virgo, which is Prudence. And that's actually a much better card. Remember, with the sevens, the seven of discs was bad. Now we're actually kind of improving ourselves again, even though we're going back down the tree. So, what's Crowley got to say about the 4 eights? So, the 4 eights attributed to Hod, as we talked about. So, he's saying because Netzach and Hod are at the same level of the tree, the defects found in the sevens are also found in the eights. Because you haven't moved up anyway, just flatlining, basically. So then he says, yet one may perhaps urge this alleviation, that the eights come as, in a sense, a remedy to the error of the sevens. The mischief has been done, and there is now a reaction against it. One may therefore expect to find that, while there is no possibility of perfection in the cards of this number, they are free from such essential and original errors as in the lower case. And it's true, the eights are generally not that bad. So, let's go back to Swiftness, the Eight of Wands. Here we go. And he hasn't a lot. So then he says the Eight of Wands is called Swiftness, as one might expect from the attribution to Mercury and Sagittarius. It's kind of like a brilliance. It's like you've got the light bulb going on, the light bulb moment, and you just get that moment of illumination, and you're just inspired to get everything done. This is an etherealization of the idea of fire. All gross elements have disappeared. Yeah, it's a kind of, the Seven of Wands, it's kind of hard work and all the rest of it, but here it's a much kind of better picture that's going on. So then he does an sort of digression into this whole idea of the decanates and how they change, which we can probably leave for now, because we kind of talked about it as we go along on these things. So then he says in the Eight of Wands, fire is no longer conjoined with the idea of combustion and destruction. This idea of combustion and destruction, I think, is an alchemical thing that's going on, and there's this purification. So with the sevens, it's very much of removing the impurities through fire. It's when you put the iron ore or any other kind of ore into the crucible to heat it up, you have to clean off the slag. Kind of the sevens have been doing that, and you're left with the purity, the thing that you really want. So the Eight of Wands, it represents energy in its most exalted and tenuous sense. This suggests such forms thereof as the electrical currents, one might almost say pure light in the material sense of the word. You know, it's a bright kind of thing that's going on there. In contrast, we get to the Eight of Cups Indolence. So this card is the very apex of unpleasantness. It is ruled by the planet Saturn. Time, sorrow have descended upon pleasure. It's time to close, the party's over, going to clear up the mess. And there's no strength in the element of water which can react against it. You know, water needs to flow. If it's flowing, it has force. If it's stopped, it's stagnant. It's just kind of inertial. It's not going anywhere. And then you get all kinds of diseases and things breeding it and everything else. And it's not such a good thing. The card is not exactly the morning after the night before, but it's very nearly that. And this is the interesting thing about the Eight of Cups, because the party hasn't actually happened. You just decided there's no point in going to the party, so it's going to be crap, so you don't bother. But you know, it's as if the guest has forgotten to. The party's been created, but the guest forgot to invite the host who forgot to invite the guests. And there is a difference, though, that is in some way or other the host's own fault. And it's a kind of overreaching that's going on here, that the person was trying to do more than they're capable of, and they fell short basically, and they end up in depression. So we have the Eight of Swords, which is where have we got Eight of Swords? Here we go. Here it is, and it's called interference. And he says there's in some senses you could equate this or see the same kind of problems as the Eight of Cups. So this card is attributed to Jupiter, ruling this decanate of Gemini. So there's a weighing down of the will by internal or external stress. It's getting heavy. Jupiter, even though it's a kind of light planet compared to Saturn, it's still big. It is simply the error of being good-natured, where good nature is disastrous. It's the good intentions kind of thing that just goes wrong. This will not do in the world of swords. If one must hit at all, a knockout blow is best. It's a bit like ripping off a plaster. You do it slowly, it's painful. It goes, it's better. But there's another element in this card, that of the unexpected, because the eights are mercurial anyway. Interference. So the unexpected interference here is a kind of sign of bad luck. Things just go wrong. It happens. Trivial incidents have often been altered. Trivial incidents have often altered the destiny of empires, brought to naught the best laid plans of mice and men. I mean, there's one good example, of course, is the assassination of Archduke Vicarius, which brought about the beginning of the First World War. These unintended consequences, the people interfering in things and making things not go right. So to finish up with the eights, we'll look at the Eight of Discs, which is, things are improving. It's not as bad as you think. Prudence. This card is a great deal better than last two, because in purely material matters, especially those relating to actual money, there's a sort of strength in doing nothing at all. This is the virtue of sort of putting your money away and letting it kind of grow as a nest egg. The problem of every financier is, first of all, to gain time. If his resources are sufficient, he always beats the market. This is the card of putting away something for a rainy day. The attribution of Sun of Virgo ruling this decanate, it is the card of the husbandman. He can do a little more than sow the seed, sit back and wait for the harvest, because of course Virgo is September, the time of the harvest. There is nothing noble about this aspect of the card, like all the eights. It represents an element of calculation and gambling. Is securely profitable if one has adjusted the decade properly. It's a kind of, in other words, you've got to fiddle it in order to make it work. He brings out another point about this card. The Eight of Discs represents the geomantic figure Populus. And these eight discs here, Populus is a geomantic symbol, and it's an easygoing figure and at the same time stable. It's to do with the moon, the full moon. One thinks of Queen Victoria's time, of a man who was something in the city, rolling up to town with Albert the Good advertised by his watch chain and his frock coat. On the surface, this is very affable, but it's nobody's fault. So there we are, the eights. You know, 7 and 8s haven't been too easy in this kind of journey that we're going on. And the next cards we're going to do will be the 4 9s, and this brings us back to the centre. So it's got to be good, hasn't it?